up, Rotogrinders? Dean here, Dean78904. That is the daily fantasy handle. It is 5:12. We're a minute or two late. Our apologies. 5:12 on the East Coast, 2:12 West Coast, 4:12 Tennessee time. So, of course, that is the time of the flagship show at the Rotogrinders. It's called Grinderslive. Joining me today, not messing around, 8-game slate. So it's a full booth. 3 of us. Joining me first, you know him from such things as NASCAR and the morning grind. And I'm sure there's other things too. It's Stevie. What's up, Stevie? How are things in your world?
I thought you were going to introduce Kurt when you started talking NASCAR and like morning grind. I was like, that's Kurt.
Does he crush NASCAR?
But yeah,
I was waiting for the disc golf intro. The disc.
Oh man, I messed up. We're doing it live. I would do another take otherwise. But yeah, disc golf is also your thing too, apparently.
Yeah, I got a little thing the other day that said I played more than 200 rounds this year. So I mean, I've gotten into it a little bit. And
do you play the disc golf stuff on Prize Picks as well?
I do. I had a really
is that still
good
on there?
Well, it's off season right now, so they start
that.
back up in February. But yeah, I mean, I had a really good disc golf Prize Picks season, so excited for that.
It's a sentence I've never thought I'd heard in my life. But, I didn't lose anybody playing disc.
When they first like introduced it, it was so soft. So like I had 10X's, I think like the first like 12 slates in a row. So it was really nice. That's
beautiful. Hey, if you guys are out there, you haven't played Prize Picks just yet, go ahead and deposit. You get your use deposit bonus Grinders, Grinders with your first deposit for 100% deposit bonus up to $100. Talking to Kirk Dees, who may or may not. You appeared, I assume, at some point on the morning grind. I imagine you made guest appearances.
I was scheduled, and I was scheduled one time. I think I got out of it somehow because I couldn't. It doesn't work on the timing, the schedule. So I've always been MIA for that.
Stevie usually records like 10 o'clock at night, depending on, or sometimes during the games, right? I guess it was a scheduling conflict.
My significant
like
other
10:30
gets upset at me.
Yeah, the few times I've appeared, but somehow it's like I'm doing it at midnight or something like that, which is perfectly fine with me. I'm all about I'm about that nightlife for sure. All right, 8-game slate, boys. It's the association. There's COVID protocols. Bunch of dudes in, bunch of dudes out. We're going to be monitoring all sorts of things throughout the show. Obviously, some of the things we say at the top of the show may expire by the end of the show. We're going to do our best to power through, and any news that drops, we'll do our best to break down as well. Curtis, your official assessment as far as the slate, what are you kind of looking at right now? We have a lot of studs to sped up on for sure. Jokic, we got Embiid, we have Giannis, Curry, LeBron versus Houston, and there's a lot of potential cheapies out there too that could change. We're monitoring guys like Bradley Beal, who's currently questionable. We're assuming that Brandon Ingram's going to be out tonight. Some guys coming back. Wiggins expected back tonight from the health protocol. Jonas Valanciunas expected back, but again, we talk about Ingram being out for New Orleans. Lots of body parts in flux, and we'll talk about that throughout the show. But you have a general, telescope with 30,000 foot view of this slate. What do you have for me?
Yeah, so the most important news that I'm waiting on, believe it or not, and I never thought this sentence would come out, is I'm waiting on this Naz Reid news because they said that he was, with the guys coming back, that they're conditioning and whatnot, they probably weren't going to be playing. But Naz Reid played 2 games ago, so like what conditioning? It doesn't seem like he's gone through the real COVID spectrum where conditioning matters. So it would make sense that he's available to play. And that's the key is Nathan Knight, right now kind of unlocks everything. But as far as studs go, I mean, yes, I like the way I'm kind of looking at the slate as of right now is the game environments I like the best. I think the Lakers Rockets is juicy, but then again, I do this all with a caveat that a lot of these game environments are completely new to us, right? Like we don't know how these guys perform. I don't even know didn't even know half of these guys existed until this week, and
Greg Monroe is playing basketball now.
He's back. Greg Monroe's. I want to see Jared Sullinger back. That's right. Let's get that man a 10-day contract. Yeah.
You think he's in playing shape? For some reason, I would.
I would. That's why I want to see. I want to see what he looks like, because he would use his rear so good for backing down into and getting it on the block down there, and then he would just go to work. He was really talented, had a talented offensive game, but conditioning wasn't his strong suit.
Stevie, what about yourself? What are you looking at? What are you monitoring? Yeah, it's a really big one as far as Nas Reed. And frankly, I don't know if he had COVID or didn't have COVID, or if he was a close contact or whatever it was. But different guys recover different ways. But yeah, if Nas Reed comes back, that would completely change the slate because, of course, Russell and Edwards are all expected to be out. Towns expected to be out. Beverly expected back from Minnesota, but still, Reed would presumably start and play his 28 or so minutes. He's a strong fantasy point minute player. I think the Bradley Beal one is kind of a big deal too, because if he doesn't play, they can open up Dinwiddie to a good bit. But yeah, Stevie, what are your thoughts before we go ahead and break it down game by game?
I think the biggest thing for like the Nas Reed thing, they don't play again until Friday, so they could potentially keep these guys out, and then we see them all back on Friday for conditioning purposes. But I'm with Kurt. I think that, if Reed plays, he's fantastic. If he doesn't, Knight's fantastic. It's just there's a $1,600 price difference on DraftKings. So we really want to play Knight again because he frees everything up. But I think the Bradley Beal thing is super interesting. Waiting to see some starting lineups. I know there was just a report that came out that Lopez was going to start for the Magic tonight.
It just dropped. Gravette, Harris, Franz Wagner, and Carter Jr. along with Lopez starting at center.
Adjusting as starting lineups come out, I think is the biggest thing for NBA right now with everything going on.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I know Hampton's one of the guys that's popping on DK right now too, and I'm curious to get your thoughts as a Magic fan to see what you think is going to happen in that game, or is he going to grab himself enough minutes specific to DK? The RJ Hampton price is pretty appealing. I'm not sure how much you need it, but it's certainly one of the cheapies that are on the table. 216 is that total. Milwaukee is a 14 point favorite in Orlando. That's a huge favorite for a road team, but it makes a ton of sense, obviously, as far as who's in and who's out in that game. Only one game at 7:00. Milwaukee fully healthy. Except for Lopez. He's been out for a while, Brook Lopez, but no brother on brother action, but maybe Brooks in the building. Who knows? For Orlando, of course, Cole Anthony is out, Ross is out, and Bamba is out, and Mulder and Moore and Suggs and Isaac. It's not worth running up the whole list, but yeah. So Stevie, Giannis Antetokounmpo should absolutely smash here. It's one of the quandaries here. He should smash, but if he smashes too hard, maybe he doesn't get the chance to smash in the fourth quarter. Will he smash enough to justify the roster spot, justify that salary? And again, we have plenty of studs on this slate for now, with Curry and Embiid and LeBron and Jokic. Is Giannis where is he in the power rankings of your studs? Because it's that push-pull of if the game stays close, if he plays 34 minutes, he should go bananas. Yeah. What are your thoughts as far as Giannis?
I think if you're playing Giannis, you have to run it back with a couple Magic players, hoping that the game just stays close. But I think overall, Milwaukee is one of my least favorite teams for having a 115 implied team total. I like some of the Magic value. And if I was going to play anybody, I think it'd be like Bobby Portis. But overall, I expect the Bucks to be pretty low in here. And I don't think really they have a ton of ceiling. So a team that I'm pretty much staying away from outside of potentially stacking with some of these Magic value players. But with the prices on the Magic guys, I don't think you necessarily have to stack some of these Milwaukee guys with the Orlando players.
Yeah, that's kind of my thought process as well, Kirk Dees. As far as Milwaukee, I am not really interested in any of the Bucks except for some Giannis, just because the raw points can be absolutely crazy. The holiday price, I just can't justify it. 9.2, 9.5 is too much for me. Middleton is at best appropriately priced. Cousins has to fall back now with everybody healthy. Do you like anybody in Milwaukee besides potentially some Giannis? Because otherwise, I don't see it.
I like some Giannis, and it would just and I would kind of correlate that with some of my Orlando favorite plays and just hope that this game stays competitive. I would pay for an overpriced Wendell Carter Jr. In the situations with Giannis because of he's probably going to be the guy that does some offensive work for him and keeps him in the game. Maybe Wagner, maybe I kind of like RJ Hampton too. And I think it's kind of smart that they don't have him starting because what would that second unit be without him? It seems like he's going to be the go-to offensive scorer on that second unit. And he's an NBA player, this Gravett guy is just lucky to be here for the moment. But Hampton is certainly, I hope that with him not starting, that gives a little more opportunity for him.
Two questions on that thought. Is there if this game gets ugly, is Hampton mopping up? And if this game is close, is Hampton the closer? Because I think it's possibly yes to both. Possibly.
Maybe this they run this Hassani Gravett guy all game in the blowout scenarios, but I don't know.
Stevie,
I'm just gonna say that a lot tonight. I don't know.
Educated guesses.
I think Hampton plays 30 minutes in a blowout or a close game.
Okay. So
with,
you like?
He's playing like the Okiki role for the Magic with Okiki out. So, I think he's just someone that I don't think whether it matters whether or not like Gravett plays 30 minutes or not. I think RJ Hampton's going to get 30 minutes just because of the role that he's going to be in with Okiki out. So, we look at the last game, played 31 minutes. He had 21% usage. I expect him to shoot 15 plus times and play 30 minutes here. So at 3,200, he's way too cheap.
We also got blast from the past. Timmy Frazier's back on, at least can get some mop up minutes too.
I saw that. Yeah. I don't know how much, he's probably a 10-day. I assume he's just like a live body, but I can't imagine he's something they need to see, but who knows? But yeah, he's a guy that can absolutely mop up. I think it's important to note for Hampton, it's DK. FanDuel at 5-3, but 3-2 on DK is much more appealing. If you look at our ownership stuff as well, that is reflective. We're looking at 20% ownership on Hampton, 13, 14% on Giannis, and then, Middleton at 12, Franz Wagner at 11. You mentioned Carter, 8K is tough. That's tough to get to, but you said he's overpriced, but that's the reason why you're playing him, because nobody's going to have him. You kind of run it back, and there's certainly a possibility you can put up 45 to 50. That's something we've seen before out of him, especially gets going from stocks.
Hampton,
but overall,
he's minimum salary on Yahoo, right, Kurt?
I'm sure. Let me check.
You're like the Yahoo man.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure I tagged him over there today.
I barely even looked at Yahoo today yet. Because I can't build. I can't build until all this. Yeah, he's 11. I can't build to all.
11. I can't afford 11. 10 is a steal, but 11.
I think he won't be too popular. I think he's good for the baller over there. And GP, I don't anticipate. There's a lot of really good point guard plays with Kemba, with Alex Shea, with Ricky Rubio. So I don't think he's going to get much love. Halliburton.
Anything else as far as this game? It's the only 7:00 game. I don't think there's. If you miss it, so be it. I don't think it's that big a deal. But if you want to buy yourself a half hour's worth of information, it's an interesting slate the way it kind of sets up, because 8 games, 1 at 7, 2 at 7:30, 3 at 8, and then we have a 2-hour break to a midnight to a late night doubleheader. OKC, Sacramento, Denver, Golden State, which there's a lot of potential goodness in those games. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about the Philadelphia 76ers at the Toronto Raptors. No, wait, I'm on the wrong game. Hold on a second. My bad. Washington at Miami. That one's the next one, right? No, you know what? I'm looking at 2 different lists, and they have them backwards, and they're both 7:30.
They're both at 7:30. Do whichever one you like.
I'm tripping myself up, unfortunately. Philadelphia at Toronto. 215.5 is the total. Toronto is a 6-point dog here. Of course, Toronto is a mess. We saw them get absolutely walloped the other day, lost by 50 or so to Cleveland. Some dudes are coming back. We're expecting Pascal Siakam to be available. Trent as well, but we know FEV, big part of their offense. No Freddie VanVleet, no Scotty Barnes, no OG Anunoby. We have Flynn, who's questionable. Achua's questionable. Birch is questionable. And I'll throw it to you, Kirk Dees. This is another one where it's going to be, I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
If this and if that. And Pascal hasn't played. When was the last time Siakam has played? It's been a while.
The 14th. So this has been a while for him. So the conditioning is a real concern here. But
9-4 on DK with conditioning. I can't talk to that. I don't think I can talk to that.
Yeah.
You talk to it?
I can whisper a little bit to it.
9-4 is a rough price, but he should have theoretically a bunch of usage. 7-8 on FanDuel. That's a better price. 7-8 on FanDuel and 33 on Yahoo. It's fine.
I was about to grab that. Damn.
What do you have me as far as the Raptors?
It's interesting, right? So it's Gary Trent's back, right? Trent towards playing. That's another conditioning situation. There's a lot of conditioning situations, but we also have a coach who loves to run his guys for huge minutes. So this one could go either way for me. We could look back at the end of the night and say that the Raptors came out after getting, came out strong after getting absolutely walloped in this in the last against Golden State Warriors. No. Who did they play in the last game?
Right?
Who just Cleveland. Sorry, that's I mixed that up. But Cleveland absolutely embarrassed them, so they come out strong this game, and maybe that he runs all his guys, or else it could be just the same situation that we just saw, that Siakam's getting himself into game shape, Trent's getting himself into game shape, and we see all these bums can't really do much against the Philly. But Philly hasn't put many teams away this season. Seems like they play down in competition a lot. So I mean, I could go either way. The game environment isn't the juiciest here, but there are value plays. And so like Watanabe has certainly looked good, and he's been in the rotation regardless. He's had a nice solid role. So it just makes a lot of sense with him. Had a big game in that Cleveland game, not where they lost by 45 points, but he's kind of the one that I'm getting a lot of. Boucher is just it's like he'll be the first guy to lose his minutes for some reason, because they just don't like him. But I can get behind a little of him, but this isn't my favorite game environment.
Yeah, we're projecting 36 minutes for Yuta Watanabe, 34 for Svi Mikhailiuk as well. Watanabe, he ran good his last game. He took 20 shots too, which was an anomaly. He also mopped up in that game for like 37 minutes or so. There are some reinforcements, but 36 minutes is still pretty interesting. Also, the price got bumped up as well. And he's like a 0.9 fantasy point minute player in the year, so pretty solid as well. I don't know if I love like chalk Yuta Watanabe at 30%. I don't know how much I love that.
I mean, he's an NBA caliber player. At least he's not a star NBA caliber. He's not a starter, an NBA caliber starter, but he is an NBA caliber player.
Yeah. He's taking some DNP CDs for sure, but he's a guy that like he looks like he kind of belongs when he's on the court, right? Otherwise, I mean, it's Svi Mikhailiuk is kind of sort of somewhat interesting. I don't really know what they're going to do, Toronto, and I don't know how in shape Pascal is, but I assume he's playing. I assume he's good to go for at least 30 or so. Like, why bring him back for 25? Like half measure. Sometimes they bring him along slowly, so you never really know. Stevie, this is again kind of a guessing game with Toronto, but if these minutes projections are correct, if Watanabe gets 36, I'll take my chances. Svi Mikhailiuk at 34, that's kind of interesting as well. What are you doing here as far as the Raptors?
I mean, do we really think he's going to play that many minutes with Trent and Siakam back? I mean, we got
36 for all of them. All three of them at 36, Stevie. So, yeah.
I mean, I don't know. This is one of those games that, like, initially I want to cross off. Joel Embiid's so expensive. Toronto is a mess, and I think Philly could just absolutely control this whole game. I mean, Siakam's expensive. Boucher, like you guys were talking about, he's so fast to lose his minutes. So, I mean, at 30% ownership, I play 1 to 3 lineups. I'm probably going to fade him and probably just fade this entire game.
I don't hate that concept. I just don't know if Watanabe is gonna ruin my night if I don't play him. But I still might end up on him just because. But I think that projection's a little bit ambitious. 35 fantasy points tonight. The Philadelphia side, you kind of referenced it as far as Embiid. He's really expensive. Philadelphia is mostly healthy, relatively speaking to everybody else. Green is out and Drummond is out and Milton's out, but otherwise, it's a healthy rotation. I'm pulling up our ownership stuff. Oh, like DK specific. We got Watanabe at 30%, Trent at 14%, and nobody else on Toronto anywhere near 4%. And then the Philadelphia side, we have 15% projected for Embiid, 14%. I think that's probably a little high at 12.1K personally. I don't think it gets there. Might be 8 or 9 or whatever. And then Maxey at 8%, but like nobody's playing anybody in Philly. Kirk, do you agree with that as far as the Philadelphia side being, not all that appealing?
Yeah, it's tough. It's their prices, right? It's Embiid. It's Tobias is 9K on DraftKings. I mean, that's tough. Maxey is a little bit interesting, but there's so many other good point guard plays that he gets lost in the shuffle. So
yeah, we're saying, by the way, Harris is 7-2 on FanDuel, and that's somewhat, if you want to play Harris, that's the better place to play him. He's going to get more ownership, obviously, which makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. Let me check Yahoo too. I wasn't on him today. Oh, he's only $28, so he'll be pretty popular. He'll be really popular tonight, actually.
Do want to mention, if y'all are watching us on the YouTube, do hit that like button. We appreciate that. It helps us out with the algorithm. Feel free to turn on notifications so we know when we go live. If you want to chat with us, you're looking, where's the chat at? What up? I want to talk to these people. I want to ask some questions. We always do questions into the show. We do, we have Steve, our producer Steve, compiling those questions in our Discord. Discord is free to join. There are some premium channels. This is a free channel. Rotogrinders.com/Discord. And we're in the live stream chat channel. Again, that is a free channel. It's not a premium channel. Feel free to ask some questions or just say whatever. Make your comments along with the show in that Discord channel. All right, moving along. Yes, we're done. I think so. Yes. Wizards, Miami, 208.5 is the total. Miami is a 6-point favorite here. I'm just giving a refresh on the old Twitter to see. Or feel free, whenever you guys, if you see something, feel free to chime in if you see anything as far as Beal or anybody else as far as who's in and who's out on this slate. Yeah, so for the Miami Heat, they are going to be without, well, PJ Tucker is kind of a big one. That's another one we didn't really talk about, but if Tucker doesn't play, I mean, they're out with no Udonis Haslem. Of course, Bam Adebayo's out, and Dedmon's out, and Markieff Morris is out. All their big men essentially are out. Yurt 7 season, like we have some cheap centers for sure. And Yurt 7, he's been really, really solid when given an opportunity this season. On the other side, they're without Montrezl Harrell. So Washington kind of dinged their backup center. Maybe Gafford gets some extra run. And we know Bradley Beal is questionable too. Hachimura not ready just yet. Al Neto is still out. KCP is still out. So there are, in theory, some stuff can really open up here, Stevie, as far as the Washington side, especially if Beal doesn't go. I believe I saw today in the expert survey, Noto was talking about in the 5 games that Beal has not played, Dinwiddie has averaged 49 fantasy points. That's really good. I'm not saying he's going to get 49 tonight, but he doesn't need 49 tonight when you consider his salary. I'm very interested in Dinwiddie if Beal is out. If Beal is in, whatever. Your thoughts?
I just don't understand why we don't have this news yet, right? I mean, it's like it's a protocol thing. Like, at what point are they just like, all right, well, he's playing or he's not playing? So, I mean, I just checked. He's still questionable on the injury report as of 5:30. They're hopeful he plays. If Beal's out, we play Dinwiddie. I mean, that's right? Like, I don't think you have to really overthink the Beal situation. I think what becomes more interesting if Beal doesn't play, maybe you take some tournament shots on like a Goodwin at minimum salary. I think there's roads for him to play like 20 to 22, 23 minutes for Washington. So, I mean, I think Bradley Beal matters. Obviously,
you say Goodwin? Who's Goodwin? I don't know who Goodwin is.
Jordan Goodwin. Like, he was like a G League player. Like, he's a G League player that just signed like a 10-day deal. He's minimum salary, I think, everywhere.
All right. Do you know this is Curtis?
I'm all in. I have no idea. No idea who he is.
I've never heard of Jordan Goodwin.
There you go.
I feel like I'm being punked.
No, I'm not even messing with you. Like, if Beal sits, I think that with KCP out, Nato out, I think Jordan Goodwin could play 18 to 22 minutes.
Okay.
He's a G League player, man. He's gonna put up shots. Like, this is his chance.
Fair enough. I've never heard of him. I'm shocked. I've never heard that name before.
I was thinking Kuz, Kyle Kuzma, who's
he's interesting.
Oh yeah, he's a great player. Sorry, I totally overlooked Kuzma.
And like Kispert and Abdia are kind of fringe players you can think about. Well, what about Gafford? Do you think Gafford grabs a few extra minutes?
I hope that's the thing is we've never seen big minutes out of Gafford, but Gafford is a guy who's we all know can have put up nice fantasy outings in a short amount of minutes. If he does get bigger minutes for some reason, if we could get him like up to 30 minutes, then he could be a smash for sure, especially since he's going to be going against Yurt 7 and I mean, he's 7. I mean, he's huge. He's a 7-footer, that guy. And he's a rebound monster. But like, you would think that Gafford could be able to do some work on the offensive end on him.
Yeah, pulling up fantasy points around the season. Gafford's well over a fantasy point, 1.03 on DK, 1.1 on FanDuel. His issue a lot of times is foul trouble. Like, he gets those 2 quick fouls and gets yanked. And Harrell does his thing, but maybe they're a little bit more likely to push his fouls because who's behind him? The absence of Harrell, I suppose that's the thing. maybe this game just goes small. And that's where like kind of PJ Tucker factors in. Like Miami is without, again, Haslam, who cares, whatever. That's one of their bigs though. Bam's a big, Dedmon's a big. We haven't seen Morris in a while, but he's one of their bigs. They're really small. After you're at 7, there's not much going on. Man, this game could go small, especially if Tucker gets rolled out. It'd be kind of interesting to see how that goes down. But as far as the Washington guys, I mean, Kispert has been playing a lot of minutes. Not a good fantasy point getter player, but he plays a lot of minutes. He has been, at least. I'm not sure if that's going to continue going forward. Avdia's like another fringe player, but he's not.
He's like Kispert's kind of like a decent DraftKings play with the 3-point bonus. I mean, he's either going to light it up from 3 or he's not going to do much.
0.6 so far, but yeah, he's got to make his threes, obviously. How about the Miami side? Do you like your at 7 like I do, Kirkties?
I think he's. I mean, I don't. I think it's a little bit different of a matchup than it was against in his last one with the Magic. I think he came out of nowhere and he grabbed a ton of boards. He was getting field goals. He was getting putbacks. He's a 7-footer. He's like, it's basically like Taco Fall out there. And these guys can do work when they're on the court. And he did play 33 minutes. So like, that's my only endorsement. I like Gafford better, to be honest with you. But I don't know. I think they're both in play for sure.
He's also a guy that lit it up during in Vegas Summer League. Like he was one of those Summer League guys that people loved, and everybody wanted to see him get a chance in the association. And now here's his chance, and he's done pretty well so far. I think it's worth noting. Oh, go ahead.
I think it's amazing. Like Taco Fall would never see 33 minutes, and they played this guy 33 minutes. So that's. I mean, he could get that same amount of minutes tonight.
We got him projected currently for 28, but I think that can. Well, he's also he can foul, but that can go up because we have Tucker getting 32 minutes right now. Tucker might go away. He looks like a real live questionable. It's 50-50 at best that he plays tonight, I think. So I think they can push her at 7 again to 32, 33, 34 if Tucker does not dress tonight. What about Jimmy Butler? Jimmy Butler's got a pretty good price on FanDuel. His DK price is 9.3. FanDuel, Stevie, he's 8.5, 44 on Yahoo for what it's worth.
I mean, do you think he's going to play?
Butler?
No, I thought you said Tucker. It sounded like you said Butler. No, I mean, Butler is obviously someone you could look at. I mean, if Beal sits, do you think this game stays close enough for Butler to hit his ceiling? I think is the biggest thing. But Tyler Hero is someone, his minutes have kind of just been all over the place, but I think it's more game script and stuff lately. And getting ejected didn't obviously help. Vincent Strauss, these guys are cheap. You're at 7. There was a couple books this morning. I don't see any now that had his rebound prop at 8.5. Pound that over if you can still find it. So I mean, overall, I think this game has some value. I think this game is really, really interesting if Bradley Beal sits. But I mean, if you want to pay up for Butler, I have no problem with that.
5 straight games of at least 12 rebounds where you're at 7. It's 8. You saw it at 8.5. That seems
it was at 8.5
really
in a couple books. Yeah, I was writing it up this morning. It got taken down, so I stopped writing it up.
He's an awesome rebounder. He can block some shots as well too. He's raw, obviously. He's still not a complete project, but if he's going to be out there for 30 or so minutes potentially, and again, I think he gets a bump if Tucker's out. I don't think Tucker plays, but that's a guess. I have no clue. But my best guess is Tucker doesn't play. I guess maybe that's why I'm showing even more enthusiasm for your at 7. What do you think about Butler? You have a thought in that, Kirk-Dees? I think especially on FanDuel, he's got a pretty good price.
I love Butler. I love him even more if Beal's in. The thing was weird about Beal is like a notoriously unvaxxed player. He's gone through. He's been very vocal about that. Like that's
either are or not, but he's talked about it. I hear
he's openly. I'm sure there's many ones who aren't. But anyway, so that's why it's kind of I thought there was going to be a longer period for him, but we're waiting on that news. I think. Obviously that it improves our chances of this game being competitive, but I think this is going to be a pretty competitive game anyways. And so I think Butler is going to do everything. And I think he gives you a really safe floor, and I think he's got massive upside if this is close and for GPPs. So I like, but he's reasonable, he's just a little bit more expensive than Wendell Carter Jr. So.
Yeah, he's got a lot of ownership there on FanDuel. 37% is current projection over there on DK Butler at 17%. This is the front end of a back-to-back for Miami. That's also one of the reasons why I think Tucker sits. Maybe if he's like close, so you say, well, we'll just save him for tomorrow, that kind of thing. If he's still not 100%, why would they give him back-to-back games? For the record, Lakers, Sacramento, OKC, New York, Miami front end, back end, Minnesota, and Houston. If you're curious about the front end and the back end as far as back-to-backs. Stevie, you got anything else this game, or shall we move on?
Let's keep going.
Lake Show in Houston, big old total, 225.5 is a total. Lakers are 5.5 point favorites. Man, the Lakers are terrible. They're without Davis as per usual. Everybody else pretty much, there's no Reeves and there's no Ariza and there's no Rondo and Ellington, but those guys don't matter a ton necessarily. As far as the Houston side, they played yesterday. They rested Jalen Green and KPJ. The presumption is they rested them for today. Neither one are on the injury report, but they do still have Jashawn Tate out with the health protocols. Garrison Matthews is still out. Kenyon Martin Jr., the kid, is out, and DJ Augustine is out as well. I'll throw this one to you, Stevie. How much of a priority is LeBron on this slate? Because he is well positioned to smash against this Houston team, far as I can tell.
I like it if this is one of those games with a really high total that, I mean, you could go with LeBron and run it back with KPJ, and Kevin Porter Jr. is projected for less than 5% ownership. And we look at his last 3 games before getting hurt, 29, 28, 31% usage rates. With all these guys out, I think Kevin Porter Jr. is just someone we're playing here at 7,700, and he's really, I mean, I can't imagine him being this low owned, and then you just kind of look at the slate overall. So I like the LeBron Porter Jr. stack. We have a ton of value where it makes it really easy. But I mean, even on the Lakers side, I think you can look at Malik Monk here at 4,100 over there on DraftKings. I think that price is really solid as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Porter thing is the price. Like 7.7 on DK is just, I don't know, man. Kirk Tees, that's tough for me to get to. I get that he could have a good game. He could have a good game and still not get there at 7.7. And I don't know. I don't know how many minutes he's going to play. Probably around 30.
The way I look at this is like the NBA, there's so much variance and uncertainty in a lot of these plays, right? Like Kevin Porter Jr. hasn't played since December 3rd, unless I'm wrong. Is that correct?
That's right.
Yeah. So I mean, like, we don't know if they're going to fully ramp him up yet, or they're not. If they fully ramp him up, I mean, from a game environment, this game is great, right? Like, just it's close. It's a decent Lakers team. They're pretty bad this year in general, but like they're missing Anthony Davis, but they still have LeBron and Westbrook and Malik Monk. They've got scorers, right, to score on Houston, who's horrendously bad on defense. Doesn't matter when, since they get Jalen back and Porter back, that doesn't help them on the defensive end. It helps them on the offensive end for sure. So this game could be competitive because the Lakers haven't put anyone away. And like every stat category is just so amplified when you play against the Rockets. The opponent, they're 28th in opponent blocks, 30th in opponent steals. They play at the 5th fastest pace. They're ranked 28th in defensive rating. And so I think this is like one of those games to attack and hope it gets close. It stays close. And I think there's a lot of fantasy goodness. And I think Porter Jr. is going to be like completely unowned, completely. And there's a huge amount of variance. But like, if things break your way and he's been practicing and he is up in the conditions, he comes right out and he goes full and takes every single shot like he usually does, then yeah, I'm with Stevie, and I think that he could do well. There's other plays that are obviously much better from a point per dollar play, but I think there's a lot of uncertainty right now, and I think you got to embrace that variance and play some of these plays like that.
Well, you can't project Porter for more than like 30 minutes, but it's possibly gets more. The other part of that, Stevie, and I'll let you answer. The other part of that is like, what is their incentive? Like, Houston doesn't, theoretically, they don't want to win these games. So like, they don't want them playing too good. I don't know, but go ahead.
Really think they're going to beat the Lakers, even if he plays 35 minutes?
They might. I mean, the Lakers are bad.
I mean, it's a 5-point spread, it's like, it's I'm sure somebody out there thinks so.
In November, he missed 10 days. I think it was like ankle or something, and he came back and played 37 minutes. So with his thigh injury, it was like a bruise or something to his thigh, because I rostered him the night that he got hurt. I mean, I could see him playing 30 plus minutes here.
Yeah, I mean, he's also left games and not come back, I would say, more than anybody else this season. With almost always because of that thigh. He's probably 3 times he's had like a thigh contusion, and like that's it. He goes to the locker room and he just chills. He doesn't come back. Other guys.
The ceiling though is like 50 plus for 7,700 at less than 5% ownership though.
Oh, it's definitely gonna be less than 5% ownership. But I agree. Like this is for like one of those like top heavy tournaments with a ton of people. I love it. I love it.
It's like 1% ownership is what I'm thinking, and like I like it. That's why I like it.
Other pieces that are grabbing some ownership here on the Houston side, I'm going to give a refresh to their ownership, but basically Nwaba, we're looking at Nwaba grabbing 30 minutes, assuming he draws the start. They still have a lot of fringe guys like Nwaba and like Josh Christopher, Aaron Brooks. Like we're looking for mid-20s as far as those guys, as far as minutes. And I assume we're projecting Nwaba to draw the start. He's still pretty cheap, 3.4K specific to DK. We're looking at 21% there. Christian Wood, in theory, like has a ceiling. Yesterday, the entire team was a flop. It was a front end of a back-to-back, and they got absolutely walloped by the Hornets. That whole game was kind of a disaster. The fringe guys on the Lakers, you could play some Monk, who really got going last game, and he's got to score, but he can. And this is a team you can score against for sure. Melo, same deal, revenge game. Do you have a favorite Laker besides LeBron or Westbrook here, Stevie? Is there anybody else that kind of stands out for you? It's probably Monk, but like, he's also a guy that the floor is rough if he's not putting the ball in the bucket.
Yeah, I mean, it would be Monk for me, just price wise. I mean, Nwaba is another guy that like just ownership with 1 to 3 lineups. Do I really want to play David Nwaba? I mean, there's so many roads for him to bust, even getting 30 minutes. So for me, it's more of a fade for me on Nwaba, but I completely understand why people would be playing them if they are playing more than like 5 lineups. But I mean, this game, the game stack is really interesting for LeBron, Porter Jr., and maybe Monk, a little 3-man game stack. But outside of that, I don't have a ton of interest unless you want to go Westbrook over LeBron.
I see a perfectly timed question there in our Discord. Again, if you guys are watching on YouTube, hit that like button, subscribe, turn on notifications. All that stuff is appreciated. Join the conversation, rotogrinders.com/Discord. It's a free Discord channel. Go to the live stream chat channel. Kirk D's question in the chat is, do we like Nwaba? And it's like, I don't like Nwaba, but like if he makes everything work, maybe, I guess. I don't feel good about it though. Is that kind of where you're at as well?
Yeah, I don't see a ton of upside with him. I think he's fine. I think he's probably not going to kill you at that price tag. It could be a fine play. I just don't think he's going to break a slate here with Jalen Green back, with Kevin Porter Jr. back for sure. I mean, these guys are going to come out on the court and they're going to command the usage again. Eric Gordon's probably going to play with a little more pep in his step now that he's playing back with like Porter and Jalen Green, and also playing against LeBron. Josh Christopher was a very interesting name in RG chat today. There was a lot of blow-ups over. I went in there for a little bit and I was like, man, it got really toxic over this one Josh Christopher play. People were really getting angry. I thought he was a bad play.
What did they expect? Like I rostered a little bit too, but like I didn't. Yeah, I mean it's Josh Christopher. Like him busting is like, oh my god, Josh Christopher didn't get there.
And he was chalky, and the reason he's chalky is because he projected well. But like there's so much differences in opinions on like, oh, I don't watch basketball. You don't need to watch it. It's just a number on a page. And yeah, that's true. But there's also like, you can watch basketball and there are some edges to be picked up for people who do that kind of thing. And you can kind of see how a game's going to, at least predict over a good sample and make better decisions. I think Josh Christopher happened to be a bad decision last night. No, doesn't matter. But I think David Nwaba is not going to help you win GPPs tonight. I think Jalen Green might. Right? He might not, but he might. I think that's a guy at 4,700 on DraftKings who did play on the 23rd. So he's only been out less than a week. Is a guy that when he plays commands anywhere from 20 to 30% usage. He's gonna huck shots, and the Lakers aren't very good on the defensive end.
All right, a little bit behind on time. We got to pick up the pace here, boys. Next game is New York, Minnesota. 211 is the total. Minnesota currently a 4-point dog. Oh, man. The Minnesota side, we're expecting Pat Bev back. Cat, Russell, Edwards, Vanderbilt, 4 starters, all expected out. Naz Reid currently questionable. If he's in, very interesting. If he's not, Nathan Knight becomes super interesting. As far as the New York side, Quickly expected back, not on the injury report. Knox, not in the injury report. That doesn't matter so much. McBride available as well, allegedly. Nerlens Noel is out, their backup center. And we know Derrick Rose is out for a while. All right, Kirk Dees, tackle this one as far as the Minnesota side. I suppose I just kind of did the F then as far as Naz Reid. If Naz Reid plays, he's interested. If not, Nathan Knight absolutely crushed last night in his absence. On the absence of the 1 and 2 center, he was the third guy stepping in. I presume he would get a similar delegation of minutes, assuming things are going fairly well. He put up 20 and 10 last night. The price actually dropped, I believe, on DK. Minnesota, Kirk Dees, what do you have?
Yeah, so I'm personally expecting Patrick Beverley to be back. What are our thoughts on Anthony Edwards?
Yeah, so I have Beverley. The last we saw is that Beverley is basically officially back.
Yeah.
Edwards, Russell, and Towns and Edwards all expected out. But that's some stuff can change for conditioning reasons. And you're right. Edwards is the one, I think he's out, but now it's a conditioning issue. So I don't know.
Yeah. And I think he probably will be out. And so that's the way I'm approaching this game. I'm thinking that Reed might play. That's the one that we were talking about, but you already nailed that. But so
PJ
basically
Tucker officially ruled out. So you're at
okay,
7.
so there you go. You're at 7.
Smash those rebounds over.
Yep. Patrick. So I mean, the question is like Jalen Noel, who played phenomenal in 35 minutes and has earned himself a role on this team anyways. Is he a good play at 3,800 even with Beverly back? I think he probably is. Malik Beasley is going to get his shots up for sure. And that's kind of all the interest I have besides Knight or Naz Reid.
Yeah, our ownership right now is flooding to Knight. We're assuming Reed is out, but that can obviously change. Beasley at 29% on DK, McDaniels at 19%. And again, if Reed comes back, he'll take a slight hit too. Stevie, feel free to add anything there, but for the purpose of time, you want to jump over to New York.
I mean, on the Minnesota side, we talked about it earlier. They're not playing until Friday, so the conditioning for these guys, Beverly, Edwards, Prince, Reed, it will be interesting when we do get that news, who plays and who doesn't. On the New York side, I mean, I'm a little concerned with Quickly being back, but Kemba just a usage monster right now, attempting 1 million shots a game. So at 6,900, I think I go back to the well one more time. I could see why you could potentially go Quickly or Burks, but I think just right now with the uses that we're getting, it's hard not to play or have interest in Kemba.
Yeah, 6'9" on DK. We're still projecting 36 minutes for him. He's our highest projected own player on New York by a mile, 20.3%. Next guy up is Randall at 6.2, then Mitch Rob at 4.7, but not a lot there as far as grabbing ownership. Gary Trent officially in. Pascal Siakam officially in. We have Birch out for Toronto. Malachi Flynn is available, and Precious Achua is out for Toronto. So interesting stuff. I'm sure we're going to get an update as far as our projections momentarily. Let's move on to the next game.
I just want to add something about Kemba. I love Kemba. I want to make sure that people know I love Kemba. Like Kemba, I love that, like what they were doing, like getting him the triple double. I like that for fantasy. I like it when the teams rally around a guy, right? Like every player loves Kemba Walker. He's finally getting on Tibbs' good side. The only thing that's going to hurt him now is Emmanuel Quickly getting back up to speed much, but I don't think, I think there's room for a ton for both of them anyway. And he's played 40 minutes in 3 straight games, right? Like, and this is Tibbs who does, and he's balling right now. He's playing with that edge, like where since he was benched, and there's like and the players are rallying around him. And Minnesota just gave up 45 fantasy points to Peyton Pritchard. Like, you don't think Kemba Walker can smash tonight? Like he's gonna smash tonight.
But like Pritchard saw Kemba's 40 minutes and says, "I'll raise you."
He played 45 minutes. They were not there. He would have played the whole game. It's like, it was crazy. They didn't have, and it made sense because they had literally no other point guards. But it was unbelievable.
All right, let's move on. Cleveland is in New Orleans tonight. 213 is the total. New Orleans is a 4-point dog. Flipping out their big studs on the New Orleans side, we're expecting Brandon Ingram, currently doubtful to play. Jonas Valanciunas expected back. Josh Hart is questionable, which can change things for sure. and Na is also out for the New Orleans side. As far as Cleveland, Mobley conditioning, he's questionable. Who knows? We know Garland is out. We know Jared Allen is out. Diddy Osman is out. Okoro is also another conditioning questionable guy, but we're assuming that Ricky Rubio jumps into the starting lineup, takes the place of Darius Garland. Yeah, I'm interested in Rubio. He's one of my favorite plays in the slate. Stevie, what say you?
Yeah, I don't mind Rubio. Kevin Love, I think his price is kind of reached where, I mean, you probably don't want to play him, but I completely understand why in large field tournaments you would take shots on him at this ownership. And I mean, we're kind of waiting for Coro and Mobley news, right? Like that hasn't been decided yet. So, I mean, I don't think really anything affects Rubio. I think this is a great spot for him, 6,400, no Garland. Yeah, I mean, this is a great spot, I think, for Ricky Rubio. I'm with you on that.
We're expecting 32 minutes out of Rubio. And I think he's in a really well positioned. You mentioned Kevin Love, and one of the best players all the season long in fantasy points per minute. He's been awesome. And a lot of people just had him buried, right? 1.34 DK points per minute this season. That's amazing. That's like superstar level. Of course, he's not playing 35 minutes a night. You don't necessarily need it when you check his asking price. Curtis, what are your thoughts there as far as the Cleveland side? Is Rubio the most appealing piece? You got anybody else you want to talk about?
Love Rubio. They just don't have anyone else to mop up those minutes. He's like, so this is a guy we normally don't think he plays big minutes, but he does. He has this season, which is a good sign. I mean, he's hit 38 minutes in a game. Didn't have a good game in that game. He's hit 37 minutes back in like similar situation when Garland was down. So if we can give him tons of minutes, I mean, against this Pelicans team that's missing everybody, this is a G League matchup. Cleveland's got, I think he's going to rack up assist after assist. I think there's going to be plenty of steal and blocks on the defensive end for him. So love him. Mobley, it's just tough. I don't know what to expect. Love has to do it in limited minutes, which he obviously can. It's been all about efficiency with him. In the last two games, you look at, I mean, he's just smashed. But Rubio is my guy. I mean, I think there's some big games coming in Markkanen's future too. I just think that there's also a very low floor. So I think he's definitely in play, but those are the guys I'm looking at on the Cleveland side.
Curtis, Valanciunas specific to FanDuel at 7.7K. It's a really, really good price. It's hard to pay him off on DK, where I think he's close to 10. As far as there's a couple cheapies on the New Orleans side to play a bunch of minutes, like Garrett Temple, not a fun roster, but theoretically he should get there just by sheer being on the court for 30 minutes. Same deal with Herbert Jones. Thoughts as far as these New Orleans guys? You're probably gonna say the same thing. These are fringe guys that don't have monster ceilings, but probably don't destroy your lineup, but probably don't make your lineup. That's kind of where I'm at right now. What say you, Curtis?
Yeah, so J-Val's going to smash. Whether he smashes for that DK price, that's another story. It's a tough price. On FanDuel, you get the benefit of the scoring system that fits him and the cheaper price. He's incredible play over there. Devontae Graham is like, so what do you want when Brandon Ingram and all these guys are out? You want somebody who's not afraid to chuck, right? Like who's going to go out there and chuck. And that's Devontae Graham, right? He's just been kind of in the background this season because he can't be that guy when Brandon Ingram, he still does what he does what he does. But like, I think he's going to command monster usage. I don't see Garrett Temple commanding monster usage. I mean, Garrett, for those that haven't been playing DFS long enough, for those of us who have played DFS for a long time, we know all about Garrett Temple, right? Like, yes, it's possible he has a decent game, but the odds are this guy's not going to bury you, right? Like he might bury your lineup for not having him. He's not going to bury you. So I'm all about Devontae Graham here tonight. And I think I'm J-Val, and that's all. I mean, I think you can use Temple, but I wouldn't have really high expectations.
Yeah. I mean, he's 3.6 on FanDuel, 3.6 on DK. And especially if they lose Hart, like Temple might play 35, 36, 37 minutes or something like that. And same deal with Herb Jones. Question in chat, Herb Jones or Kendrick Williams on OKC. Do you have a preference amongst those two? What do you have for me there, Curtis? If you had to pick between those two, Jones versus Williams. Williams a better fantasy point minute guy, but Jones has more secure minutes. The minutes
with Herb Jones. And, you can get some defensive stats with him, and he's okay. He's not a bad player. So Jones.
Still have two more games I want to throw it to Stevie. Stevie, what are your thoughts as far as Cleveland and New Orleans? I don't want to leave you out. I'm just trying to like get through it with with 7-8 minutes on the clock. But what do you have for me as far as that we did not cover? Anything you want to add? Feel free.
Valanciunas, great play on FanDuel. Herb Jones, really like him over there on DraftKings. I think he's a good pivot off of some higher owned plays in this price range. So I'm going to be playing quite a bit of Herb Jones here. I think he's someone that sees a huge uptick with Ingram off the floor.
All right, so two games, 10 o'clock. We jump ahead 2 hours. 223.5 is a total. OKC at Sacramento. Sacramento 5-point favorite here. OKC is without some guys, and they have plenty of dudes, but Giddey is a big one. No Giddey tonight. No Favors, no Baisley, no Poku, and no Jeremiah Robinson Earl. So their roster is a little bit thinner than it normally is. Sacramento pretty healthy, with the exception of Davion Mitchell. Alex Len also unlikely to play otherwise. Sacramento's got a bunch of dudes. They've been an embarrassment all season long. Their coach Gentry was pissed last time out. This feels like a good bounce back spot in theory because it's OKC, but also it's Sacramento. Stevie, what do you have for me as far as the Kings?
I mean, Wiggins. You said the Kings. I mean,
yeah,
they're all kind of priced appropriately. Halliburton's 8.9. He's way too expensive. Fox is 8K. I mean, there's a little bit of ceiling there. Barnes is 7-1. They're all priced like these guys are out. I think in tournaments, if you want to go with Holmes and just take a shot, if he gets the minutes, this is a guy that before all this stuff happened, before injuries and stuff, he was playing 30 minutes and crushing. So in tournaments, I think he's the guy. But overall, I think Sacramento on DraftKings wise is, priced pretty appropriately. I mean, I'm probably not paying $8,200 for Halliburton on FanDuel either. And then Fox is like 78. So maybe you could potentially take a shot on him over there. But I think this is just the Kings are priced right.
Yeah, I would just say the Holmes thing. When he came back, it seemed like he came back too soon and he wasn't very good. And the last game, I think it was the last game where he's gotten the crazy foul trouble. So, and they also stunk. It was a combination of a lot of things. And in theory, there is a ceiling, and also this matchup should be pretty good as well. What do you have here, Kirk Dees? And feel free to jump over to OKC, where we're getting a ton of ownership on SGA for FanDuel and plenty on DK, even at 9.5K. We're projecting 25% ownership. FanDuel 42% ownership at 9.2K as far as SGA. And then there's the fringe guys like Teo Maladon and Roby that are grabbing some ownership. Dort is interesting. Muscala should play 20 minutes or so. We talk about Cambridge Williams, who probably comes off the bench, but maybe closes. It's hard to predict these OKC guys, even with 4 or 5 out. What do you have?
So I love this game in general from a game environment standpoint. You get tons of steals and blocks from both of these teams. They're all in the bottom 5 for all of those categories. So I'm looking to get some good Yahoo and FanDuel scoring out of this game. I love Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. The thing about him right now is that he's been aggressive. And he's been aggressive for a nice stretch. The problem with him is when he defers and he lets Giddey do his thing and tries to work with them. Giddey's out tonight. So I see Shai having an absolute monster game here in this spot. Sacramento plays so super fast. They're 6th in pace right now. They're running. So I think we can expect a nice pace up spot for all these Oklahoma City guys. So I also like Roby. I was gonna play him before some of the news shook out, but
you assume he starts? He's 3K on DK. He's a center only, which is kind of a problem.
I know it's tough, but I think he starts, and I think he's going to get minutes regardless. And he's somebody that I know can put up fantasy points when he's out there on the court. It's he hasn't done much in a little while, but I think with Favors, I was expecting Favors to start, and I still liked Roby. I was still looking at him and thinking I like Roby. And now that Favors is on the protocols, I think they're going to have to use Roby.
Let's see. I'm checking on the news, see if anything interesting has dropped. Not so much. Let's move on. Let's talk about the Hammer. By the way, I did SGA. He is the league leader in drives, drives to the basket. He averages 23.4 drives per game. The second most guy, John Moran at 19.7. He gets 4 more drives than anybody else in the league. And do you think there's the rim protection of Rashawn Holmes and whoever else is standing there? I was going to say Alex Len. He's not going to be there, but whoever it is, that's not going to chase him away. I think SGA is well positioned for a big game tonight. The Hammer, that is Denver and Golden State, 217.5. It's the total. Denver is a 7-point dog here. It's Jokic and it's Jokic and it's Jokic and Golden State. Curry, Steph Curry's pretty good too. Stevie, what do you have in this game?
I mean, this is my favorite game on the slate. I like Jokic Curry combo. We have so much value on this slate that's really easy to do. So I'm going to be stacking these two guys up together. Probably play some Otto Porter Jr. as well. I think Wiggins kind of hurts him a little bit. Iguodala hurts him a little bit, but with no Draymond, I think there's still roads for Otto Porter to play 30 minutes, and his price is still kind of appropriate. So, I mean, I really like the Jokic Curry combo. You know, we see a huge uptick in usage. It's like 4% increase with no Draymond, with Curry, with Poole out too. So, I mean, I love the idea of stacking two studs in the same game. It's kind of what we were talking about with like Kevin Porter Jr. and LeBron, a little bit cheaper, but I like this stack a lot.
Yeah, my bad. I didn't say for Denver, Aaron Gordon is questionable. Monte Morris is questionable. Those are the big ones for Golden State, like you mentioned. No Draymond, no Jordan Poole, no Damian Lee, no Moses Moody. Iguodala is probable. Wiggins expected back. And yeah, so there are, Poole and Green are the two big ones, and Lee is kind of a rotation guy as well. Kirk Dees, what do you have as far as this game?
Gary Payton's been balling. I mean, he's got his role solidified with the defense that he plays. So yeah, it's nice that Poole's out. It's going to hurt him a little bit with Wiggins back in the mix, but I still think it is playable. Obviously, I like Steph for GPPs in every single game he plays. This is a guy whose ownership goes up and down just based on his projection on the, and overpriced and whatnot.
Bradley Beal officially ruled out, by the way. Didn't mean to cut you off, but I thought that was important to get out to the people. Go ahead.
Saw that.
But it's
Jokic and it's Steph.
All right. We're going to hand it off to Crunch Time in just a minute or two. Do appreciate y'all watch us on the old YouTube. Hit that like button, do subscribe, turn on the bell so you know when we go live. We're going live pretty much every single day. 5 o'clock, depending on what time the slate, 5:10, 5:40. If it's a later slate, you all know how it goes. Question in the chat. Denzel Valentine? Is anybody like Denzel Valentine this evening? It's a little bit ambitious for me. Valentine for anybody?
Who does he even play for now?
He's on Cleveland. He had a good game in this he got all the garbage time against Toronto in that last game, but
we'll play around 25 minutes. He's no better than like the guys that we kind of poo-pooed already, like the Garrett Temples of the world and the Herb Jones of the world. So he's in that conversation, I guess, but I don't know. I'm not here to recommend him. Can he get there? I suppose, maybe. Give me your favorite stud, your favorite spend up tonight, Stevie. FanDuel specific for tournaments.
Curry. I really like Steph a lot tonight.
How about yourself, Kirk Dees? If you want to go a different site, by all means, go for it.
I just feel like Russell Westbrook's going to have a big game tonight. So
interesting.
Yeah.
I
love that one. That's solid.
We kind of just breeze past them, but yeah, Russ in theory can get loose. Well, I think it was a triple-double last time out. He wasn't good, but he had a triple-double
against his former team.
Yeah, and I think he's got a good price on Yahoo as well. He's like a $33 or so. We got to step aside and get out of there. We do appreciate producer Steve for producing today. Appreciate for y'all asking questions, partaking in the conversation there in the Discord. Rotogrinders.com/Discord, the live chat channel. But we got to go because Crunch Time is getting fired up here on Rotogrinders.com. They'll answer all your questions that we're not answering on this show, and they'll break down any breaking news that happens to break down from now until tip-off. Spoiler alert, some will definitely break for sure. That was Stevie. That was Kirk Dees. That was basketball. I was Dean. We're out of here. Halt!